everyone. Welcome to SureFire Live. Hope you guys are having a good week. I'm having a good week, feeling good. I just got back from a little trip down to Florida. We had a partners meeting for SureFire, and me and Jim and Alan and Jake were down there and getting some game plans and getting some ideas about what we need to do, what we need to do better, what we need to do more of, what we need to do less of. So it was a good planning session, and I had a lot of fun with the guys. And so welcome tonight. Looks like we got a good group forming, and I still have the same problems I've had in the past where I have some people on one and on another. So welcome. Today, I had a meeting this morning with a kind of a famous marketing guy. His name's Don Miller. You can look him up. The other day, I was on something with Mike Fazy, and Mike was talking about Don Miller. His book is called Story Branding, and or Story Brand. That's his company. And he's based here in Nashville. So he was speaking to a group I was in this morning and listened to him. And I wanted to share some of that really amazing information that he has. I called Taylor Hill because he's my marketing guy, and he's like, "Yeah, I love Don. He's got great messaging. In fact, they applied some of his stuff to their, they've been to his workshops." And so for me, the story branding, what I learned today, a lot of it I already do. In fact, it was kind of cool. I went up and talked to him afterwards, and I introduced myself, said, "Hey, I've read your book and followed some of your stuff." And he's like, I said, "I'm based here in Nashville." He's like, "What's your company?" I was like, "It's Ashbusters Chimney Services." He goes, "I know who you are." He's like, "You do a great job of marketing." I said, "Well, a lot of it is thanks to you." And he said, "Your messaging is great. I know who you are. I know what you do. I know the problems you solve." And that meant a lot. Obviously, he's hypersensitive to branding, and we brand quite a bit. But I wanted to share with you what I learned from him. So as usual, this is a two-way conversation, I want you guys to comment. I don't see my live feed coming up with messaging. I'm not sure why that is. So hopefully I get messages. But anyway, so a couple housekeeping things before I get going. One, MACA, the Mid-Atlantic Chimney Association, we talked about it last week. We are doing the CSI Business Symposium for that group of people. We have Tommy Nelms speaking. We have Jim Brewer. We have Joanna Quintero. I haven't heard her before. She works with Chuck Hall and his company, and he said she is just lights out. Hey, Chad, I do see you. Yes, you came in on the regular feed. So, hey, buddy, and glad you joined us tonight. We have Hope Stevenson. We have John Caesar, Alan Rush, Allison Reynolds, who does accounting and CFO work, and me. I'm the host, and I have a course. I'm going to talk about how to build your management and leadership team. I get quite a few comments from people like, "Hey, I'm hiring a COO, I'm hiring a general manager, I'm hiring this, I'm hiring that. What should they be doing? When do I need the right person or whatever?" And hey, Chuck Roydhouse, good to see you, buddy. There's another superstar. We're going to have both these guys, Chad and Chuck, when we do our business symposium in Nashville. And if Mike Fazy joins me, I need to talk to you about having one out there. I think we'd love to have one out at your place at some point. So that being said, let me just talk about this story brand idea. I wanted to start off with a video from him. It's about a 15-minute video. So it's going to take a minute for him to explain this process. And then I want to show you a worksheet that he did, and then kind of talk about how it kind of affects or how it really plays into the chimney industry. So let me see if I can do this right. All right, let me see. I might have to go here. Watch intro video. Yep.
Hi, good to see you guys. Well, welcome. And we are so glad that you are here. And if you are attending this training, there's probably a reason, and it's a good reason. It's that we all want to grow our businesses. We all want to see something dynamic happen. And I think the way that we can do that, what we want to present to you is, if you clarify your message, customers will listen. If we just make our messaging crystal clear, customers will listen. But we have an enormous problem. I mean, a serious problem. And it's a problem that we're going to have to solve. And the problem is this: most companies waste an enormous amount of money on marketing collateral. And I mean an enormous amount. Like when I walk through an airport and I'm looking at the billboards all over the airport, or if I'm driving down the freeway and I see these signs, most of it is a complete waste of money. And the reason is, if I'm driving 85 miles per hour down a freeway, there's no way I'm going to read and understand the message that's on that billboard. So however much money you paid for that billboard, you just wasted it. It's not going to get you any sales. And it's not just billboards and airports and freeways. It's the emails that we send. I don't know how many of you guys have opened an email. I open them all the time and I read them and I just think, this doesn't make me want to buy anything. There's nothing in this email that makes me want to engage your brand. And here's how the problem plays out. I've done this so many times I can't count anymore. I get really excited about a new business idea. And of course, I want to create marketing collateral immediately. I want to create a new website. So I take all these ideas down to a designer. And this designer may be unbelievably gifted, right? They have a degree in design. They know everything about Photoshop, all this stuff. They create a beautiful website. I go home, I look at this website. And have you ever done this? You just start refreshing the website. It's not going to change, but you just refresh it because you're just so excited about it. And it's this beautiful reflection of your heart and who you are and your story, and you're introducing yourself to the world. And you look at it, and the next day you're like, I can't wait for the sales to start. My phone's going to start ringing, and nothing happens. Absolutely nothing happens. And here's why. It's because that designer knows a lot about making things pretty and beautiful and symmetrical and all this kind of stuff, but that's not why people buy things. People buy things almost exclusively because they heard or they read words that made them want to buy things. It's the way we talk about our products that move our products. And that designer, while they may really be great at design, right? They have never studied sales copy. They don't know how to write anything that would sell anything. So we just trusted with our main retail presence, this designer who really doesn't understand how to use words. And it is costing us an enormous amount. People buy products only after they read the words that make them want to buy products. Think about the last time you bought something on Amazon. You probably looked at the picture of whatever it is you're going to buy for a second. Then you scrolled through and saw it from the back side and the side and this sort of thing. And then you might have read maybe a couple sentences of whatever the company said about the product, but we all know where we're going. You scroll down to the reviews and you start reading, what is the reality of this? Is it going to work for me? And if those words convince you that it might, you're willing to place an order. But it was all about the words that we used. If we can make our messages really clear about why our customers really need our products, we're going to win in the marketplace. I want to present to you an idea, and it's this. People do not buy the best products. They don't. People don't buy the best products and services. They buy the ones that are communicated the clearest. People don't buy the best products and services. They buy the ones that they can understand the fastest. Now, I don't mean to say we shouldn't have the best products and services. We absolutely should. But the reality is we're in a race to get people to understand why they need our product and service. And if your competitor has an inferior product to you, but they are a better communicator, I guarantee you they will beat you in the marketplace every single time. Why? Because the customers never knew you had a better product, and they never knew why they might need it. So we've got to communicate very simply and easily in a way that people can understand. There are two things that I want you to understand about the human brain. Two things that will help you communicate very clearly. The first thing that the human brain is always trying to do is it's trying to help you survive and thrive. This is literally the main task of your brain. You are designed with a brain that main objective and goal is to keep you alive. That's what it's doing. Now, we live in a first world economy. Most of us, thank goodness. We don't necessarily spend a lot of time thinking about where our next meal is going to come from. So grateful for that. We don't think about where we're going to sleep tonight. So some of those needs are taken care of. And you remember back when you studied Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Once food and shelter are taken care of, you start thinking about relationships and tribes. But even thinking about relationships, it's a survival mechanism. We're looking for teams of people who will support us both emotionally, spiritually, physically. So that when I say to you, hey, can I get you a refill on that cup of coffee? You think, man, Don is a really nice guy. He went and got me a refill. It's actually not technically what's happening. On the primitive level, something very different is taking place. And it's this: I'm going to get you some coffee so that you will like me, so that when barbarians come over the hill behind our cul-de-sac, you will fight with me. That's literally what's taking place. We don't necessarily think of life that way, but this is most definitely the operating system that we all function in, and it's the way our customers actually think. So what does this mean about the way we want to communicate to our customers? Well, it means this: if what you're communicating about your brand, if what you're communicating about your product isn't directly connected to helping your customers survive and thrive, they aren't going to pay attention. They're not. That's the data that they're looking for. They're looking for something that says, you're going to help me get ahead, you're going to help me be stronger, you're going to help me save money, you're going to help me be more productive, you're going to help me establish more security, you're going to help me experience a greater quality of life. I am trying to survive and thrive here, and I'm always scanning the environment for data that's going to help me do that. So if everything that I'm doing is trying to help me survive and thrive, even in these broad, general ways, and you come up to me at a cocktail party and I say, hey, what do you do for a living? And you say, well, I've got this company that actually my grandfather started it 75 years ago, and we've just done really great. We've won a ton of awards. We have an amazing Great Places to Work metric, and we're actually trying to double revenue this year, which is, what am I hearing? I'm hearing nothing that is going to help me survive and thrive. And that's a problem. And it's a problem because of the second thing that the human brain is always trying to do. The second thing the brain is trying to do is conserve calories. Literally, it's trying to conserve calories. It takes a lot of calories to process information. Those of you who have ever passed the bar exam or taught a long course or tried to spend a full day writing a chapter in a book or something like that, you know that at the end of the day, you are completely exhausted. And yet all you did was sit there and think. Well, you didn't just sit there and think. You actually burned a lot of calories processing all that information, and it's tiring. So what happens? When your brain has to process a ton of information and burn a lot of calories, processing data that it knows has nothing to do with your survival, it turns off. Your brain literally says, I don't need this information. So when somebody asks you at a cocktail party, hey, what do you do for a living? And you start talking about your grandfather and the awards you've won and how old your company is and all these kinds of things that are really about your story. The person who's listening says, I don't think I'm going to burn a bunch more calories listening to this guy. I'm out of here. Or worse, when I say, what do you do? Where do you work? And you say, well, it's complicated. What did you just tell me? You just told me you're going to have to burn a ton of calories that'll be completely wasted in order to understand why this would ever be important to you. And that's going to put you at risk. Because if you burn a ton of calories at this cocktail party and you deplete your energy and barbarians come over the hill right at the end of the party, they're going to kill you. I realize that all sounds silly and primitive, but it's actually the way human beings, and it's a good thing. It's what keeps you alive. If you didn't function this way, your life would be completely meaningless. You'd go into a Starbucks and you'd see the first package and you go, wow, this package is really interesting. I like the type font. How did they seal this? You would just go randomly into information that means nothing for your survival and thrive. And every day you would have trouble getting out of bed in the morning because you're just processing information that you don't need. And eventually the barbarians would in fact get you, which we don't want to happen. What this means for our brand, though, is we want to communicate about things that help our customers survive and thrive. And we're going to do so in such a simple, clear way. They don't have to burn any calories to understand it. The clearest communicator will win. And it's not just in selling products and services, it's also in leadership. The clearest communicator will almost always win. people do not buy the best products and services. They don't. And they never will. They buy the products and services they can understand the fastest. You are in a race to communicate clearly. Every time you share a piece of information about your product or service, I want you to picture yourself handing somebody an 8-pound bowling ball, right? Now, if you handed me an 8-pound bowling ball right now, I could hold it. You'd watch me hold it and wouldn't be too uncomfortable. But then you want to share something else about your product or service. So now you handed me 2 8-pound bowling balls. And then you hand me a third bowling ball, but the third one you actually used some kind of inside language, some term that I'm not familiar with. You know, if you're an accountant, you're talking about something that has to do with accounting, you say just things, and you're actually making me burn even more calories. That's like taking the third bowling ball and wrapping it in Vaseline and handing it to me. So I've got 2 bowling balls, and then I've got one that I can't quite get a grip on because it's so slippery. What happens when you hand me the 4th bowling ball? How many bowling balls do I drop? All of them. And it's exactly what's happening to us when we talk about our businesses. I mean, you're at a cocktail party and you tell me, you know, we're trying to accomplish this and we solve this really technical problem for customers and, you know, we do this. And by the 4th bowling ball, my brain is fighting to stay awake. And you're also in severe competition because right behind you at this cocktail party, somebody is passing around bacon-wrapped dates. And bacon-wrapped dates have everything to do with my survival and thriving. And the nonsense that you're spitting out has nothing to do with me. So now I've got to glaze my eyes over and pretend I'm paying attention to you, and really I'm paying attention to something else. You know, we have a mantra at StoryBrand, and it's this: if you confuse, you'll lose. And I mean that. We should never, ever confuse our customers. Lee Lefevre has this term that he uses when he talks about how easy it is to confuse customers. That's called the curse of knowledge. So if you would imagine a scale of like 1 to 10, right? And 10 represents everything you know about your product or brand. And it's a lot. I mean, you're intimately familiar with this stuff. You may have even created it. You spent so much time in the lab. You know this product inside and out. The problem is you now project that knowledge onto your customers. You think they know a lot more than they actually do. But you know you got to simplify it a little bit. So you actually simplify it from level 10, maybe down to level 6. You made it a little bit easier for your clients to understand why they would need your product and service. But there's still a problem. And the problem is this: people make buying decisions between levels 1 and 2. The gap between levels 2 and levels 6 is called the curse of knowledge. And most people don't know that they have it. I mean, your customers are really thinking very simply, especially the first time they engage your brand: how can you help me survive? How can you help me thrive? And don't confuse me when you explain it. And if you do that, and I need your products, I'll give you my business. I think we're missing out on an enormous amount of business by not communicating clearly and not making our communication about our customers' needs. All right, there are 2 things I want you to think about as we end this first module and as we begin the StoryBrand workshop. And the first is this: is the message I'm sending about my product about my customer survival? I mean, think about it. Think about the last time you wrote about your product. Think about your website right now. Think about that sales letter that you recently sent out. Think about the speech that you just gave. Did you talk about how somebody needs what you have and how it pertains to their survival? Because that's actually all they're interested in. And the second question is the message clear and simple? Have you avoided the curse of knowledge? If you've answered no to either of those questions, we've got help. By the time you finish this workshop, you are going to have 7 categories of messages figured out and written down. And those messages will get customers to respond because they will be simple and clear, and they'll have to do with your customers' survival. So with that, let's get started.
I think that's it. So let's see here. Let me get this straightened out. I got too many things open. Get rid of that. All right, so I hope you guys like that. I thought it was going to go into a little bit more of the actual story brand building, so I'm going to actually do that with you guys. But I mean, gosh, we do it all the time. I mean, it is constant in the chimney business. We think everybody knows what relining is, a liner, a clay flue tile, a smoke chamber, a damper, a chimney cap, a chase cover. Like, we use those terms, and you didn't know those terms before you got in the chimney business. You didn't even know if you didn't weren't in the chimney business, you didn't know them. We speak to our customer like they should know what we know, and it's all the time. And I remember, one of my guys one time told me, he goes, Mark, I said, man, you're taking way too long with the customer. You're giving them way too much information. He said, well, when I leave the customer, I want them to know as much about chimneys as I do. And I said, oh, hell no. I said, don't you do that to me. I mean, if an HVAC guy came up to me and said, hey, I want to teach you all about your HVAC system, I'm like, I am not interested. My heat's not working. You're the guy. Flip the switches, fix the fuse, do the thing, get me heat. That's all I want. I do not want to know how it works. I don't want to know the draft. I don't want to know the CFMs. I don't want to know how the coolant works. Please, I'm the wrong guy for that. Now, clearly, there's some people that want to know the details, but I promise you, they're very few and far apart. So, why did they call you? How clear is your message? Look at your messaging. I mean, look at your website. Are you the hero, or are they the hero? And let me just go into what he's talking about, the hero part. So let me see if I can get this website back up. Story brand. So if you want to do this exercise, it's mystorybrand.com. So let me pull this up, mystorybrand.com. And he's got an exercise sheet on here. Okay, so let me see if I can make sure you can see it. Let me share this now. Okay, so I'm going to take me out of it. See, this is bigger on the. Maybe am I on mute? Maybe I was. Maybe when I removed myself, you couldn't hear me. Okay, sorry about that, guys. When I pulled myself out, you can hear me. Okay, so let me start over. On the character part, the very first part of it, that's your customer, and that is who you're servicing. So, what do you think your customers want? What do you think? What do you think they want from a chimney company or for any service provider? And a lot of times we say peace of mind. A lot of times we say, like for us, they don't want us to make a mess. They want to be educated. When I look at our reviews, people say your guys were very professional. They were on time. They were nice. They communicated clearly. I feel better about my fireplace now that they're gone. They tell us it's almost the same thing. Everybody says the same exact thing. So for us, our marketing has to be that clear. Most customers don't write these big, long things about how smart your guys were and how they educated them beyond what they wanted to be educated. That's not it at all. They say, hey, I feel better about my system. So in this thing, what do your customers want? You have to. So again, what do you guys think? What do you guys think your customers want? Why do they call you? Do they want a clean fireplace? There's that old story of, when somebody buys, a drill, and they don't want to buy a drill. They want to buy a hole in the wall, right? They don't even want to buy the hole in the wall. What they really want to buy is a system so they can hang their picture to make their house better. It's not even about the hole in the wall and the mount you put in there. It's because that tool gives them something they want, right? What do they want from your company? And I think all of them are different. A few years ago, pulled out of trying to brand us as a chimney sweeping company. Chimney sweeping is one of the, in this case, one of the subplots. We are your fire experts. If you are going to have a fire in your house, we're the guys to call. If you have a leak in your house, we're the guys to call. So my messaging is very, very clear. I came up with it, 12 years ago. We fix leaky chimneys. It's the main thing. This Don Miller, who you just watched, knew our slogans. Now he's hypersensitive to slogans, but he knew what we did through that. So what is your message? Is it you're a chimney sweep? Is it you're a chimney restoration company? Is it you are, whatever it is, that's very important that it's clear. So then the next step is, and this is like every movie, there's a character, and in the character has a problem. So the character has a problem, and there can be a villain, there can be an external problem, there can be an internal problem, or philosophical problem. So villain, is there a root cause of your customer's problems? Can you personify this root cause as a villain? What is a villain in your customer story? Now, how many times has that villain been another contractor? How many times has that villain been somebody else that they hired? And now you're hopefully the hero. How many times is the villain, a chimney fire, burnt their house down? The villain is fear, right? So then that goes on down to external. What's the problem your customers deal with as it relates to your product or service? How is the villain making your customer feel? And why is it just plain wrong for your customers to be burdened by this problem? So now their problem is your problem. Now, so can you solve that? So you have to identify the villain. The next part, this is very important to me, meets a guide. So a guide is basically you and me. And let me just take SureFire as an example. SureFire is your guide to training. And the guide is a being or an entity that has already been where you want to go, already knows the answer to where you want to go, already knows the problems, and here's the solution, right? So for, in the SureFire thing, I'm one of your guides. I have been through a lot of battles. I know how to get there. I can show you what we did to get past it. And I have a lot of empathy for you because I know the problem. So when you're the guide, you're the chimney guy, you're the sales guy, you're the online training platform, we have a brief statement. We have to have empathy and understanding for what our customers are going through. Then you're also the authority. You have to demonstrate competency that you know how to solve your customer's problem. So for us in SureFire, we have some of the guys in the industry that know what they're doing. We know what we're doing. We know we've been there. Let us show you how to do it. When you're in someone's house, you know how to do it, but how you do this is very important. So that goes to the next step. Let me check my people. For some reason, lost my comments. I'm going to have to work on my systems here. Let me go back to this. Where is it? I'm going to make sure I'm seeing if anybody's saying anything. I don't see any comments right now, which is fine. All right, so let's go to the next step. The plan that you have to give them. So this is very, very needed. You can only give them a few steps to do. You can't give them, like a lot of times if you give them an estimate and you list out 20 things that they need, it's just like those 4 bowling balls he talked about in his message that, they're going to drop them. They can't handle all of the new information. And then you went detailed on how draft works, or you went detailed on something that you lost them. They got 4 bowling balls and they just dropped them all. And they're like, yeah, I'll have to get back with you. I'll call you. Let me think about it. How often do you think they get clarity when you leave? Do you ever think they get more clear when you're gone than all they're doing is trying to get rid of you and process the information and try to come up with a solution? Hopefully the solution involves you. Many times it doesn't involve you. It involves something else. Today I got a customer. We gave her a bid for about $10,000 worth of work on her chimney. She sent me back this paid invoice to kind of like, it was almost like in your face. She sent me this paid invoice and literally said paid on it from another chimney company that, their solution was about $3,500. And it was almost like she wanted to show me that she wasn't going to use my company. And when I looked at what we proposed was break out the flue tiles, put a liner in, fix the smoke chamber, re-pour the crown, put a top mount cap. We had a big list of quite a few things to do. What she chose was nothing to do with the liner in the fireplace. The bid did not even address that. They poured a new crown on it, no chimney cap. They relined her furnace. And that wasn't even part of what she asked us about. But in her mind, she got more than what we were promoting and for cheaper. And so in her mind, she won. She won. And not only that, she wanted to make sure she showed me that she won. Well, I'm looking at, my gosh, how bad were we at that? We clearly did not get through to her about what we were doing when this other company got the job and didn't do at all what we found was needed. So again, what's the plan? So when they're the character, they have a problem. You're the guide. You have empathy for what they're going through. You have authority with how to fix it. And then here's the plan. Here's the process, 3 or 4 steps. If it's a detailed process, you can't go too much into it. Basically, the simpler you can keep it, the better. And then there's agreement, a list of agreements you can make with your customers to alleviate their fears of doing business with you. So one of the great ways to alleviate fears is to ask them what their fears are. When you're in the house or when you're marketing, what are their fears? One of the fears that you're going to make a mess of their house. One of the fears they're going to spend a bunch of money and it's not solved, or they're going to spend a bunch of money and they don't like the work, right? But they may have other fears. They may have fear that you're going to give them COVID. They may have fears that you are going to let their dog out, or you're going to do something to their property, or who knows what, you're going to be there too long or whatever, or they're going to get ripped off. That's probably the main fear, is they're going to spend this money and they're going to get ripped off. So you have to ask them, what are the main things? What are the main fears? Here's the plan. Here's what we want to do. Now, what are the questions that you have? What do we got to make sure we do right or make sure we don't do? Those are great questions for them. It was funny in that meeting with Don. One of his main things is he says you have to tell the customers what to do. Sometimes we write these big estimates up and then we leave, and the customers really don't know how to interact with us. They don't know what the next steps are. Sometimes I've had people call me and they're like, okay, what am I supposed to do now? And I'm messing with this thing. We weren't clear about how the whole thing worked. And that's anyway, clarity on that part is very important. So the next step, calls to action. What is the direct call to action? So this is very important in marketing, but it could be important in their house. But for us, it's call for an inspection, call for a free estimate, call for whatever we want them to do. Now's the time to have your chimney inspected before you have it. It's X amount of dollars, or however you want to market your business. There has to be some kind of, here's what you do next. To do business with us, we've explained that you've got a problem in the ad. We are the experts. Here's the plan that we can give you. All your neighbors have said they love us. And then here's what you need to do if you want us to solve your problem or take care of your villain or your external problem or your whatever problem you have. And then what the transition calls into action you use to on the on-ramp customer. What transitional calls to action to use to on-ramp customers. So I hope this isn't getting too in the weeds for you guys. I find this stuff fascinating. I love marketing. I like figuring out how to get people to call me for the problem versus, somebody else. But basically, how do you get them into business to call you really easily? Now, I know in the chimney business, we've been very busy, and sometimes we get pretty hard and we get pretty rude. We're like, yeah, we can't get to you for 6 months. It's almost like it's their problem. Or, hey, whatever issue we have, we kind of get jaded versus staying to be their advocate. Then this is very interesting. What ends in success? So basically, you list the positive changes your customers will experience if they use your service. So what positive things, like for us, we've got hundreds of Google reviews. We've got an A+ rating with a Better Business Bureau. We've got an A rating with Angie's List. Like, what you're going to feel and see is a great service, and you're going to be happy at the end. Like, literally, that's what people are worried about. We have a money back guarantee on our services. So if we come out and inspect your chimney, now some people may disagree with us or not have this plan, but if you don't want to pay for your inspection, I'm not going to push it. I want you to be happy. I want you to feel that we're thorough. You don't want to pay for it, don't pay for it. Now, that's different on if we do work or other things. It's a different conversation, but we have a satisfaction guarantee with our service. No risk. If you don't like what we did or how we did it, I don't care. I'm not going to fight that battle if you don't want to do it. Now, you may disagree with that. That's fine, but that's your business. For me, it's not worth the squeeze. The juice isn't worth the squeeze on that. And then what you do to help them avoid failure. So list the negative consequences your customers will experience if they don't use your product or service. So clearly, there's a fear factor. If they don't have their chimney swept, they don't have their chimney inspected, the fear is the house could catch on fire. The worst fear is there could be loss of life. Loss of property is one thing. Loss of life is the worst thing that could possibly happen in the chimney industry. Now, the truth is that almost doesn't happen in the chimney industry. It's a super rare day if somebody dies in a house fire because of a chimney. Now, does it happen? Yes, but there's about a zillion other things that are going to kill you faster than a chimney will. But man, it can sure make your life inconvenience a lot. It can burn the middle of your house out. It can do a lot of damage. It can smoke up things. I mean, you're more likely to have some kind of structural damage than die. So in our messaging, we should not talk about people dying. I mean, of course it's possible, but it's super rare. And then lastly, how's the character transform? How has your customers feeling about themselves before they use your product, or how was your customer feeling about themselves before they use your product? To, who will your customer become after they use your product or service? What's the aspirational identity? So basically, how can it be, if they don't use your service, could be bad. It could be more likely than anything, they're just unknown or they're afraid. How many times you go to somebody's house and I was afraid to light it. Now I'm not afraid to use it. Now I feel confident when I use my fireplace. Now I love the way it looks. I did not like the way it looked before. Now I love it. So I engage your company. Let me check what this watch tutorial is. So let me just see what this is real quick. About 5 minutes. Let's watch it.
Hey everybody, it's me, Donald Miller, and welcome to the Online Brand Script. This is the most powerful tool anywhere to help you clarify your message. And right now, I want to walk you through how to use it. On the left side of your page, you have all your brand scripts listed. You can create new brand scripts here. And I recommend you creating a brand script every time you want to create a new keynote address, every time you create a new website, every time you create an email campaign. You can even use this to write a book. You can create one brand script for the overall book, and then inside of that folder, brand scripts for each chapter of that book. It is a powerful and robust tool. The title of your brand script you'll enter up here at the top. You can share your brand script using this icon here. And there's two ways to share. One is you just copy and paste the link so that anybody can see your brand script, or you enter somebody's email address in this box And that will allow them to actually open your brand script inside of their system so they can edit it, change it, and send it back to you as a different brand script. Of course, then you can also share on Facebook, on Twitter, or you can just email the brand script to a friend. And this icon is another way for you to create a new brand script. One of my favorite parts of the online brand script is your ability to create notes. Now, it's just called notes, but what it really is a robust word processor. You can actually use this to write in long form a wireframe for your website, entire email campaigns. I'm even using it to write my new book. I'll outline a chapter in the actual brand script, and I'll create the text for that chapter inside of the notes and then just copy and paste them later after I get my thoughts clear. It is saving me hundreds of hours in the process of writing a book. If you look at each section of the brand script, for instance, character, you can see that you can access your notes through the icon beneath the character section, but you can also leave comments. Now, this exists so that somebody else can look at your brand script and comment on it without actually changing it. So you can get other people's opinions, but they can't go in and change your work. The clock icon allows you to go back in time and look at the history of your brand script. So let's say you made a change yesterday and you woke up this morning, you can't stand your change. Just go to the clock icon and go back in time and revert to the previous versions of the brand script. The play button icon allows you to watch a tutorial. Now, this is from our online course. It's a beautiful tutorial on how to use the online brand script, and it will teach you the entire story brand marketing framework. If you've not gone pro yet, you only get 30 seconds of each video, but these videos can go for 5 to 10 to 20 to 30 minutes. Plus, there's a workbook. There's all kinds of other stuff that comes with the pro version of the brand script. Not only that, but with the pro version of the brand script, you get unlimited numbers of brand scripts. If you're not pro, you only get to use one. You can cut and paste, delete things. You can use it a lot. But if you want to save thousands and thousands of brand scripts, just go pro. There are two ways that you can go pro. The first is to buy our online course. So when you buy the StoryBrand online course, you actually get access to the full tutorial videos, the entire online course, and exclusive access to our StoryBrand resource library. The second way that you can go pro is to attend a live StoryBrand marketing workshop. This will be you in a room with 40 or 50 other business leaders, a cohort of people who are trying to do what you're doing, grow their business, and we walk you through the StoryBrand framework, and you actually leave that 2-day workshop with a crystal clear message that will get a response from potential customers. The online brand script is an amazing tool to help you clarify your message. If you're ever confused or you feel like there's a fog up here when it comes to talking about what you do, this is your solution. Simply fill out each of the sections in the brand script, and you will walk away with a clear message that you can use to populate websites.
All right. So anyway, I didn't realize it turned into a marketing piece, but it should turn to a marketing piece. So anyway, a couple messages. So Chad Murray says, "Hey, I made a Facebook ad yesterday. When you turn your fireplace on, do you ever feel like ... you're about to burn your house down? An animal is watching you grab the damper handle, that you don't know how to use your fireplace, but here it goes." It has a couple more. Then a paragraph about being the authority. After we do our inspection, repairs you will ... have peace of mind that you will have a correctly functioning fireplace. There are no animals in your chimney, and we answered all the beginning feelings. So yeah, so that's exactly the right thing. He's creating, the character and what they might be worried about, and then that they're the authority. They do it all the time. They've done it for years. They've got tons of good reviews. And then what it's going to be like when they're done using your product. So perfect, Chad. So also Alan says, "You're not in the weeds. I love this stuff too. No one cares what you do. They just care what you do, how what you do can help them with their problem, need, or want." Completely accurate. They don't care. They don't want your details. They want it to reflect their life. They want their life to be better. And that, I think we miss that a lot. I think we assume that they know how good you are, that you're the authority. But the thing I think a lot of guys miss, and I might be wrong, but is the empathy part. Like, Yeah, I know exactly how you feel. I know what you're going through. And then, like, I have a thing that we use sometimes. We haven't used it a lot lately, but it talked about our story when you would go to present for a customer. I'll show it here on one sometimes. My guys don't use it as much as I'd like them to, but it shows our story. It shows who we are, and then it shows some problems. Like it shows some stats from the Better Business Bureau, and the Better Business Bureau says like super bad stats. The majority of Better Business Bureau complaints are about contractors. The majority of people that complaining never get resolution, and those type of things. So we show that we have, a great rating with them. They show that we watch this kind of stuff. We have good reviews. So we do as much as we can to make sure that they feel good about using our company. And then most important, we call the customers when we're finished to make sure we did a good job. And that does a couple things. It makes us understand, did they get the email that we sent, the final blah, 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 or whatever. And also it heads off bad reviews because they're like, you know what? That guy did this, or I didn't like that, or I don't feel like I was communicated with well enough. And whatever the situation is, we can head it off before it goes into review world. So that is a great marketing piece that I really like. That I read his book, and I like the process of well, here's another thing. Let me see if I can find his notes from this morning that I thought was interesting. How you explain your company. It says, let me see if I can find it. It says, we got a couple. Chuck Woodhouse says, no one wants to know how the sausage is made. Tell them about the satisfying flavor and low calories, and your breakfast will be so enjoyable if you buy ABC brand sausage. It's so right. It's funny. I call a lot of our demos sausage. Like when we go in and we have to demo something out, I said, it's like making sausage right here. You do not want to see it being made, but man, it sure tastes good when it's done. That's what we're doing right here. And sometimes some technicians get into telling you how the sausage is made and what it's made of. And they don't care and they don't want to know. Sometimes you talk yourself right out of a sale too. I love that analogy, Chuck. That's a good one. Let me see if I can find this, because he says we invite them into a story where they solve a problem, or where they get to solve a problem and live happily ever after. I thought that was interesting. Then he says, we invite them into the story. They are a hero desperately in need of help. We are the guide. We migrate towards people that solve problems. That's just natural. We kind of move to people who can help us solve problems. And then, gosh, I'm missing. He basically started like this. When they ask you what you do for a living or what your business is, he starts off with telling them kind of what the solution, what they provide is. Like, so what do you do for a living, Mark? Well, I own a chimney company and we do metal fabrication, and I have a chocolate business with my daughter. And like, I go down these paths and it's just like, yeah. But if I'm focused on chimneys, what he was talking about doing was, he said, well, what I really do is I help people enjoy their fireplace without fearing that they're going to burn their house down. Do you have a fireplace? Like, that's a conversation. Then I turned it back on them. Yeah, I have a fireplace. Well, you ever scared to use it? You ever try to light it and you're not sure if you should light it? Or have you ever had a problem? You ever know anybody had a chimney fire? Well, that's what I do. I make sure you don't have a fire. I make sure when you hit the button, the thing turns on. I make sure you get heat out of it. Like, he spins it where we're the solution, versus where we go tactical and tell them what we do. And so here's one from Jake. The juice is not worth the squeeze if the result potentially hurts your company's online reputation or message. So we're going back to like the guarantee for services. These days, businesses have to operate as if every customer is going to write a review. Whether it be positive or negative, these reviews end up being your company message. Very good, Jake. Yes, Jake is right. It is your company message, especially if, there's some guys out there that have some pretty bad reviews. There's some guys. Now, I'm going to go. I have bad reviews on Yelp. And I've had to answer tons. I don't know. Yelp loves they focus on bad reviews. If you look at the bottom of my thing, there's like 110 or 106 unrecommended reviews, and literally like 100 of them or 105 of them, the vast majority are 4 and 5 star reviews. They didn't recommend. I don't know why. They like negative reviews. And so, but on Google, and there's some guys that have bad reviews. The problem is, if you have bad reviews, you need to make sure you're having a lot of good reviews. But if you have bad reviews, it's an anchor on everything else. Like, let's just say I marketed really well and I told you all kinds of great things about my business on TV or whatever. Then you go online and you find me, but you see bad reviews and you see Chad's company. I've got, say, 3.8, and Chad's company's got 4.8. All that marketing did was drive you to a list service, and it looks like this other company is better than my company. So you better make sure when you're marketing, your whole game is together. If you're going to go out there and brand, you better make sure when they find you online, that brand matches what they think they're going to get. Have you ever, looked at something online or watched a movie, like a review? You're like, man, I want to go see that. And then you go to the reviews and they're crap. You don't go. If you wanted to go to a restaurant, you're like, man, let me pull up the reviews real quick, and they're crap, you don't go. Now, I tell you, I mean, not long ago, this steakhouse in town's old steakhouse, famous, and some of my buddies wanted to go to it. I'm like, I haven't heard that much about it lately. So I decided he wanted to go. So we're going. But I looked up the reviews and they were lukewarm to bad at best. And sure enough, we went anyway, and they were right. It's like the glory days of the steakhouse had passed it by. Service was great, but the food was less than amazing. Everything was less than amazing. It's kind of dirty. And I'm like, man, the reviews are right. So what are your reviews? Are they good? Do they tell a good story? Your reviews in there will tell what's important to your customers. It might be the speed of your service. It might be the thoroughness. It might be how friendly you are, how knowledgeable you are. It's rarely that, man, he was so detailed that I don't know. I don't love too many details unless they're asking for details. Chad says, my elevator explanation on what we do. I help people not burn their house down. We're unsung heroes that keeps the fire department away. When was your chimney last looked at? Been saying this for years. Yeah, pretty simple. I have to say, I never flipped it around as much as I mentioned earlier that he told me. I think I do say I'm in the chimney industry. We do chimney restorations, chimney repairs. And in his message, and maybe Chad's message too, that I just saw something from Alan, I'll show that in a minute. But I think I personally need to do a little bit better job, excuse me, of kind of showing what it's going to be like if you do business with us versus what we do. This is a great example. So Alan Rush and I and Jim and Jake were in Florida, and we went online and we went to VRBO or Airbnb, one of them, and we saw great pictures of this place. And it looked great. It looked super nice for cheap. We're like, bargain. Let's just go down there. Wow, this is a lot cheaper than the other places. Pictures look good. And we're like, oh, wow, this looks good. Well, we get there and they took the pictures from all the right angles. It just looked so much better than it was. It was very dated, very non-functional, cheap furniture. It was on this canal, and the canal, when we got there, we were on the end of the canals where all the trash kind of gathers. If you look one way down the canal, beautiful boats. But where we were, if you look straight out or to the left, it was just like there was like construction, and there was some kind of nasty net that caught the trash, and ducks going around in some trash and in the plastic in the water. And it was just like, wow. So we started calling it the Slummit instead of the SureFire Summit. It was a SureFire Slummit 2022. Yeah, I don't think we read the reviews, which we should have, over the great pictures. We just looked at the pictures like, oh, Barker, let's go. Perfect. No, not perfect. Next year, we're going to make sure we do a better job of getting wherever we're going to stay. It's going to be something nicer. But because like went to Florida and literally you couldn't sit outside. They didn't have any good sitting areas. There's no shade. If you sat there, we were all tight in this little deck that was about the size of my desk. And it was just like, wow, this is just not what we hoped for. Excuse me. Chad says chimney is a bad word. You know, there is. I mean, it can be. It can be the way you use it. Again, it's solution based, right? People don't understand how many times people talk to you and like, I didn't even know chimney guys were still around. I didn't know you. What do you guys do? I have no idea. I mean, it happened. I went to an airport lounge in Atlanta, and the lady took my card. And she's like, "Well, what's Ash Busters?" And I'm like, "Well," and I said, "You know, we fix and repair chimneys in Nashville." She's like, "What do you do with a chimney? I don't even understand why I would call a service like yours." And so, you know, that's would you ever want to use a fireplace? Have you ever been afraid to use your fireplace? Have you ever heard of somebody catching your house on fire from one or something like that? You know, I think I could do a better job myself of twisting it. Chuck Roydouse says, I make businesses profitable and organized. Stay out of the poorhouse, call Roydhouse. That's right. Both are stonerisms. So you must be on point. Yeah. So that's Chuck's message, right? His message. He's transitioned from the chimney industry to the consulting and business organization. He was very good at it. He's probably one of the best, if not the best, well-run small operator I've ever talked to or been around. Most profitable. He's very, very good. And so Chuck, you know, I said, man, there's got to be something with Roydhouse, and I said, man, if you want to stay out of the poorhouse, you better call Roydhouse. And I love that. And but he does. His main thing. He worked in the fire department, so he takes his fire department mentality to your business to keep it organized and at the same time being very profitable. A lot of us in the chimney business we're profitable right now. We're profitable more than ever, but we haven't always been that way. And almost always when companies are growing fast, they're burning their profits into growth. They're rotating the money into the people and the product. So whenever you hear somebody growing super fast, a lot of times they're cash flowing it, and the profitability doesn't show up at the end of the year because they invested in the business. And there's a line to do both, right? There's a line of profitability and there's a line of growth. And Chuck does it. So Chuck is getting his messaging down. But I told Chuck, I mean, I don't think he'll mind me saying, I said, I think you've got to clarify your message so that people know why they even want to hire you. You know, they don't really know what you can do for their business. One of the things Chuck's doing is that he's trying to clarify is that a lot of people don't know how much to charge for their services. It's just a guess. It's like, what's everybody else charging? Well, then that's what I'll charge. Everybody else is charging $700 for a damper. I'll charge $650. Everybody's charging $300 for chimney sweeping. I'll charge $279. Like, they don't really know their cost. They just base it off somebody else. And so what he can do for you is come in. Basically, you tell him how much money you want to make. You show how many, you know, he takes all your things into play. How long is that van got to last? So you got to buy another one. How much marketing, how much this, how much that? Well, then how many hours do you work? And he boils it all down, as John Meredith says, into fine gravy. And boom, there's your price per labor hour. You can get a price to break even. Like sometimes you give somebody a discount. If you don't really know your numbers, you don't know if that discount made you break even, made you make a little money, made you lose money. So anyway, just not to go off on a tangent on Chuck, but his service helps you know really what to charge. I'm about to cough again. Hang on. Got a little tickle in my throat. So anyway, that is story brand. That is marketing. I'm hitting my hour window. Any other questions or thoughts for tonight on your marketing? Let's just leave it open for a few minutes. What's some of and Chad's been very helpful with some of his ideas of branding. What are some of the things that you guys do to brand or your messaging? Does anybody have like a new message out there that is unique? Or, well, I'll give you an example in case somebody wants to say. One of the when I kind of came up with the idea of We Fix Leaky Chimneys, and I started showing the industry this messaging. This is a marketing tool that you can use in the spring. Some guys took that message and changed it. Like, my message was this: don't call a roofer to fix your chimney, call Ashbusters. We fix leaky chimneys. It was that, because I realized the majority of people doing chimney repairs were roofers, handymen, contractors. They should not be. It wasn't chimney guys, and it's still that way. The majority of people fixing chimneys are not chimney sweeps, chimney companies. They are other types of companies fixing chimneys. So instead of going after my competition and saying, these guys aren't good or we're the best, we're like, they don't even know what they're talking about. Make sure you're talking about talking to the right people. So I said, don't call a roofer fix your chimney, call Ashbusters. Well, who do you think heard that message first? Roofers. I got so many calls, so many hate calls from roofers. Like, what are you saying? Don't call roofers. I'm like, you guys don't know what you're doing for the most part. You are not certified. You do not know the code. You've probably never opened a code book. You do not know what you're doing when you're dealing with chimneys. So my message is, call the guys who know what they're doing. And my message to you as roofers is, stop fixing chimneys. You guys shouldn't be doing it. You could be liable. You don't know what you're doing. And so some of those companies started calling me and say, hey, can you come do training, or let's team up with you, because we don't know what we're doing. We shouldn't be doing this, but we don't know who else to call. And so we built a lot of things out of that. But to my point, some people took my message of We Fix Leaky Chimneys to We Fix Leaky, Stinky, Funky, Freaky Chimneys, or we fix leaky chimneys and we reline chimneys and we put on dampers and install stoves and do gas logs and tuck pointing and waterproofing, and like, they puke all over the page with all the things they can do for them. And my point of this messaging is, when you pick a lane, don't give them the 4 bowling balls. Give them the one thing that they can put their hand around. That's, I've got a problem. This is the company that solves it all the time, and I'm going to hire them and live happily ever after. That is your messaging. I'm not sure who says this, but they use personalized brochures. So in that brochure, it's telling them multiple services. I haven't seen the brochure, and I can't tell who this is, but I might say, is that too much? Should you have a brochure for each service? So then when you go out there for a leaky chimney, you have a brochure that says, here's how we fix leaky chimneys. If you're going to, sweep chimneys or do that, here's what we do for that. Like, if the message is a million things on a brochure, I bet they don't read it. I mean, do you read a brochure front to back? No. If it's very simple, if it's problem, and then here's the problem, we're the solution, and here's what it's like when you're done dealing with business with us. That's kind of what I mean. It's funny. We were just messing around, and Jim Brewer says, we're a Sure team, and we made fun of Jim so much that it's now sticking to us. The Sure team is it was so cheesy that it's sticking. And then Chuck Roydhouse says, my company was We Make Chimneys Healthy. Right. So what does that mean to the customer? Does a healthy chimney, is that why you would call, or do you need to explain that to them, that chimneys are unhealthy? They may have thought about that. They may not have thought of it. Like, it's a good thing, because you can tie a bunch of subplots to that We Make Chimneys Healthy, like water intrusion, right? And water intrusion could lead to mold. It could lead to, safety issues. It could lead to breakdown of your investment. And then other subplot on We Make Chimneys Healthy would be, smoke, carbon monoxide dangers. And I can see how that could be, overriding plot to a bunch of subplots. So like, another example he gave today was Dave Ramsey. So Dave Ramsey is probably one of the best, marketed people, because he's got one thing over the top, and almost everybody knows what it is. is, financial peace, right? That's his overriding message. Okay. But underneath that, he's got subplots of, budgeting for your kids. And then he does stuff in churches. And then he has, mortgage, and he has all these different people that help him. So he's got all these subplots under financial peace. He's got one big overriding message, and then he's got all these companies. Man, if you ever drive 65 South and come through Nashville and see Dave Ramsey's campus, it is unbelievable. The words Ramsey, the letters are probably as tall as my house, and my house looks like a 3-story house. The top is not, it's like an attic, but I mean, it's big. They are gigantic, these Ramsey letters across the top of his massive buildings, and he's building another one all out of cash. I mean, the guy has just got a message that is just winning. So to not waste money in marketing, clarify your message. Don't puke all over them with all of your everything you can do. Pick some pain points and run with them on that marketing campaign, at least for a while, and make sure you're getting response to it. So, all right, guys, that is my time. I am going to be in and out of some of these SureFire Lives, but I've got Alan and Jim and Jake that are going to take over for some of them. I'm going to be doing some traveling. Going to head to Cabo tomorrow. We're having a meeting with a group that I'm in, and going to do a little bit of vacationing around this meeting, and hopefully get a little scuba diving in. The wife now does scuba diving too, so going to go and see if there can be some scuba diving. I think the group is going snorkeling with some whale sharks, so that sounds pretty fun. All right, guys, I hope you have a good day. Hope you have a good week, and thanks for joining me again. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.